Hi, Abba. It's great to see you. I am, let's say, looking forward to our episode 17, but I'm also a little bit intimidated about the topic that I wanted to raise today. So I'm just gonna dive right in because we have a lot to discuss. So, as you know, about 3 weeks ago, I went to Bangkok to a conference by the university that I graduated from. And it was an AI conference where a professor was discussing whether AI is good, bad, or ugly. And then she was bringing in different examples for good AI, bad AI, and ugly AI. And one of the examples that she brought in for ugly AI was probably as ugly as it can get, because she was naming the example of character.ai, which allegedly drove a 14-year-old boy in the United States to commit suicide. So that is something that happened late last year. And it is being discussed on all the big newspaper sites, like, for example, CNN Business. This is where I found one article about it. So if you in the audience are interested in looking this particular case up, just find it on CNN Business. So the story behind this was that a mom now claims that it was character AI that drove her son to commit suicide when he was 14 years old, because apparently character AI told him that committing suicide would be the solution to his problems and it would be a much better place for him to be on the other side. The big question that really comes up for me at this point is it the right thing of this mother to really point the finger at character.ai for the fact that her son committed suicide? Or isn't it much more the responsibility of parents to make sure that any AI doesn't even get that kind of control over their children? And this is where I would love to hear your opinion, Abba. And then after that, I would like to just take a critical look into how our kids' brains are actually developing in that very critical phase of their lives, the teenage years, and what we as parents can at least try to do to maintain the best possible relationship for our children to literally keep them safe.
Just for context, Character AI is an AI tool where apparently, I mean, I've not signed up for it, but the research that we did together, just to context for the audience, is it allows you to chat with a character. Could be a TV star or a character. I think you get to create a certain character based on certain characteristics. A bot is created, and it seems like this 14-year-old was talking to this bot and building a relationship with this bot that led him to commit suicide. Now, when you brought this up to me, Sabine, I'm still in shock just hearing the story, right? It's a very valid question you bring up. Like, is it the responsibility of technology to keep our kids safe, or is it the responsibility of parents? Now, you'd like to believe that people who are developing technology to which kids can have access should have some sense of consciousness to make it as safe and responsible as possible. But at the end of the day, it is really on the parent. And it's so complex, this scenario, because the fact that this child built a relationship with a bot, is very worrying to me. Why is he building relationships with a bot? Why does he not have real friends? Why is he not chatting with his parents more? That I've heard that there's an age between 13 and 17 where a lot of teenagers go very inwardly because maybe they're going through puberty or adolescence or whatever, their growth phases, and it's quite hard to keep the connection. But it really comes back to how can we as parents still keep an eye on what our kids are doing, what technology they're using, how they're spending their time, love them unconditionally so that they always feel that they can come to you if they're feeling distress of any sort, but also not be afraid to be a parent when you need to be a parent, which might mean checking their phones, checking their devices, taking it away from them. And I'm not pretending that I know exactly how to do this properly. I think it's very complex and very nuanced, but I do think it's a parental responsibility, but it's getting harder and harder every day with technology that has so many benefits for our kids, but it also, as you said, has a very ugly side.
It is very demanding for parents to keep that close relationship for children. I think one of the biggest challenges that parents are actually facing is the lack of understanding what is actually happening for their children and literally inside their children during that time. So imagine that you and me, we are sitting here and our brains obviously are fully developed, right? All the different parts of our brains that are supposed to function are thankfully also functioning. Now, for us, this is basically the normal, right? We don't know it or we don't remember it any other way. That, for example, a particular part of our brains would not be functioning. But that is exactly the case for our children. So the shocking part really is that until they are 25 years old, which is crazy. I mean, you're obviously not a child anymore officially when you're 25 years old. But until humans are 25 years old, their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. And so, what does the prefrontal cortex do? It is this very important part of our brains that is actually in charge of rational thinking, logical decision making, long term thinking, understanding consequences, but also impulse control. And so, what does that mean? It means that our children are very emotion driven in that age span. Pretty much everything that they are experiencing is through the lens of very intense emotions. I don't know if you have watched the movie Inside Out 2. I have watched it last year with my daughter. It is one of those amazing Pixar movies where you actually have the main character, which is by then I think a 13-year-old girl. So she just hit puberty. She literally wakes up one morning and her whole world is turned upside down. And you can see in certain scenes how everything that she sees and that she's deciding on and how she behaves is controlled by a few small figures that are in her head. And every figure, every character represents a certain emotion. So now that she turned into a teenager, there is an emotion called anxiety, for example. There is an emotion that is in charge of wanting her to belong to her friends, of wanting to do what her friends think is cool or is great. And you can just really see also how this child is being torn between different emotions. What should she do next? And sometimes her brain is on complete overdrive because she doesn't know, for example, how to get out of anxiety. So this is what is happening for our children in that age. They are completely driven by emotions without understanding how to regulate emotions. And this is probably one of the most important roles for us as parents to show our children how to live conscious of emotions, how to control emotions, and also how to be able to shift from one emotion to the next, how to get out of anxiety, for example. So, about when you ask me what parents can actually do to keep having a positive influence on their children, I would say one of the very first things is to become emotionally intelligent unless you already are. Because once you are emotionally intelligent, you can role model that to your children. You can help them to regain a little bit more control over their actions and decisions.
I think as parents, it starts with us, like you said. If we are able to have the emotional intelligence to guide our children through difficult phases of their life, that's really all we can do. And it's not easy. I always end up reaching out to books to kind of guide me when I'm lost, because let's admit it, parenthood is a journey that you can never be prepared for. The truth is, no books can prepare you for being a parent. Ironically, I still look for books when I'm stuck on how to deal with my child on something. Having said that, although the books give me solace and give me ideas, I never follow the book. I then come up with my own way of doing things based on perhaps a few things that I've read. So I also think part of emotional intelligence in this day and age of AI is understanding AI and being literate about how these tools work and the impact these tools have on the brains of our child. Because only when we know that will we be able to navigate ourselves through it and therefore our child through it. So I think we have some tough times coming up as parents of children navigating the AI world. And the future is only going to be more technology. I don't know where the world is going. So yeah, I think there's a lot we need to know so that we can guide our children through it in the best way possible.
You know me, Abba. I always turn to books as well. And even though I'm also not taking everything that I read in there very literal, I do have a recommendation I think that is absolutely amazing for any parent to read through. It's called 10 to 25, and it's the science of motivating young people. It has been written by a gentleman called Dr. David Yeager, and it does talk a lot about brain development in that time, but it also really addresses us as parents, pretty much everyone who deals with, let's say, humans in that age range, because we're talking about kids, teenagers, young adults, all of them comprised in this group of 10 to 25. And he is describing that there are several things that our children are longing for in that age group. And it's mostly about belonging, which is why peer groups are so much more important than parents, right? If we are looking at our kids now, because our kids are in the ages from 3 to 8, if we combine them, they are all around us. They are looking at us for help. They are asking us for advice. They love to do what we do. They want to spend time with us. So we are the center of the universe. But that starts to change when they are reaching teenage years, because then all of a sudden peers are becoming much more important. It's all about, getting a great reputation, being known for something, being good at something, having the best friends in school. We all remember those days where we were questioning, okay, who belongs to which group of people? These are the super cool boys that are great at basketball. These are the nerds that nobody wants to talk to, and so on and so forth. It all revolves around that. And at the same time, for some reason, parents are not so cool anymore. So, it becomes embarrassing when mom gives you a goodbye kiss at the school gate, for example, that they don't want that anymore. So this is where it starts that parents are starting to lose touch with the kids. And now the most important thing really is that even though our children don't show us necessarily anymore the way they used to, that they love us and they need us, obviously they still do. So parents do still need to seek that connection to children, but now in a slightly different way. So instead of forcing kids to be with us, for example, give them time free, but just also be aware of what they are actually doing. Who are they spending time with? Is it good people they are spending time with? Do we want those people to have an influence on our children? And if so, then we can include these people and then, for example, invite their best friends over for a dinner with them or for a movie night in our living room, or we take them out on a great trip somewhere so that we also get to know them closer, so that we know who is the closest to my child and what are they talking about all day long. So at least we stay in the know and we don't increase the distance that we have to our children. And at the same time, obviously, we won't approve of everything that our kids will be doing in that age, but we shouldn't show them that. We can still give them values and we can still make them understand, okay, this was probably not the best choice that you just made. However, I still love you. They need to know that we are always there, unconditionally supporting them and loving them. So I think with this understanding that our kids will always need us, even though they might be aggressive and they will definitely ask for more autonomy, it is still our main responsibility to love them and to be a role model to them, specifically when it comes to emotional regulation. When you are out there as a parent and you are wondering how you can keep that connection to your child, or probably if you are in a phase right now where you're saying, oh my God, I can feel that I'm losing touch with my child, think about what we've been discussing today. And if there is anything else where you said, I would love to discuss this, let us know. And apart from that, maybe if you have time and you're interested, take a look into 10 to 25. It's an amazing book. And we wish you all the best with your kids. And thank you for spending the time with us this morning. We'll see you next week.